Welcome. How are you today? It's program number 116. No, it's not program 116. Welcome to program 1016. A lot of programs. Okay, we're going to start with expressions. Yes, sir. Some interesting expressions today, eh? I'm going to try to cover 6 different expressions. And the first one is hot and bothered. Caluroso y molesto, literalmente. Aquí dice nervioso o alterado. Hot and bothered. I'm so... Hot and bothered also includes a bit like angry, nervous. I'm very hot and bothered about that. Very hot and bothered. Hot, of course, has 3 meanings, or 4 meanings, really. Hot can be caliente, caluroso, picante, in Inglés americano. The British usually say spicy, especiado, o muy condimentado. In American English, spicy means muy condimentado, pero no pica necesariamente. Un poco quizás. But picante, whoa, we say hot. Wow, this is hot, really hot. Mexican food is famous for being hot. Jalapenos, las guindillas, they're very hot. Hot and bothered means you are very nervous and perhaps upset. You're very hot and bothered. Estás bien, pareces un poco alterado. Are you okay? You look a bit hot and bothered. Hot and bothered. Caluroso y molestado, literalmente. Hot and bothered, molesto. Okay, a hot potato. A patata caliente. Un tema delicado, it's a hot potato. Hot potato, here, toma esta patata. It's hot. It's a hot potato. It's a hot potato. This is a hot potato means it's a delicate subject. A hot potato. Yes. I beg to differ. Page 121 at the top. Ruego a diferir. ¿Eso qué significa? I beg. Beg is rogar. Suplicar, implorar. I beg. Mendigo is beggar. Porque está suplicando. No, por favor. A beggar. To beg. I beg your pardon. Is perdone. No le he oído. I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. También, ay, disculpe. I beg your pardon. Ruego su perdón. Literalmente. Se usa mucho, eh? I beg your pardon. Ahora, I beg to differ. Permítame disentir. Okay, or discrepar. So it's a formal way of saying, I don't agree. I don't agree with you. I beg to differ. It's used sarcastically quite often, or ironically among friends. Well, I think we need this person for president. I beg to differ. Okay, I beg to differ. All right. The icing on the cake. I don't know how to say icing in Spanish. You say la guinda del pastel. Say wow. Y como colmo, para de bien, una guinda. We say icing on the cake. A cake is una tarta or bizcocho, and you have the middle, and at the top, the icing. The icing is the top of the cake and the sides of the cake. When you cut the cake, you have the filling part of the cake. But I don't know how to say this. But we say the icing on the cake. La guinda del pastel era que incluso iba a estar Marta en la fiesta. That was the icing on the cake. Ice, como hielo, pero it's not hielo, it's icing. Escrito icing. The icing on the cake. And if worse comes to worst, en el peor de los casos, si lo peor llega a lo peor, if worst comes to worst, however, I think most people say worse. Sin la T. It's not correct. It's worst. But we say if worst comes to worst, yes, if worst comes to worst. And finally, if you can't stand the kitchen, or if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. No te metas en camisa de 11 varas. Si no aguantes el calor, sal de la cocina. Se entiende, ¿no? Si no aguantes el calor, sal de la cocina. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. Yes. We use the word kitchen for many expressions. There are too many cooks in the kitchen. Hay demasiados cocineros en la cocina, ¿eh? Okay, aquí mando yo, ¿eh? There are too many cooks in the kitchen. Too many cooks in the kitchen. And if you can't stand the heat, si no aguantas, si no soportas el calor, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. If you want to be in the kitchen, we have to be able to stand the heat. But if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. All right. Page on Gain Fluency, page 65. The last 576, paragraph number 576, page 65. I was a pretty good chess player when I was a teenager. I was a pretty good chess player. I was a pretty good, bastante bueno. Pretty significa bonito, lindo también. Pretty good means bastante bueno. I was a pretty good chess player when I was a teenager. Okay. Jugador de ajedrez. Ajedrecista, algo así. Yeah. I was a pretty good chess player when I was a teenager. I was a pretty good chess player when I was a teenager. Yes. In fact, I was the school champion 2 years in a row. In fact, I was the school champion, el campeón de la escuela, o del instituto en este caso, seguramente. I was the school champion 2 years in a row. 2 años seguidos. No, yes, 2 years in a row. Yeah. Huh? I was a good chess player. Yeah, I was a pretty good chess player when I was a teenager. In fact, I was the school champion 2 years in a row. Since then, I've played chess maybe 5 times only. I simply don't have time. Desde entonces, since then, I've played chess, ¿cuántas? Maybe 5 times only. A lo mejor solo 5 veces. Desde entonces. Yeah, since high school. Since the school. I was the school champion 2 years in a row. But since then, I've played chess maybe only 5 times. Maybe 5 times only. Yeah. Yes. I simply don't have time. Yeah. Finding time. Yeah, time is very elastic, but it's difficult to find time to do everything you want to do. And I was a pretty good chess player when I was a teenager. In fact, I was the school champion 2 years in a row. 2 consecutive years. 2 straight years. 3 ways. 2 straight years, 2 consecutive years, 2 years in a row. Yes. Since then, I've played chess maybe 5 times only. I simply don't have time. That's also playing golf. When I was a teenager, I was a very good golfer. But since then, I've played maybe 20 or 30 times only in the past 50 years. Golf is a very mysterious sport. Donde pones el ojo no sueles poner la bala in a golf. It's incredible. It's a very, very strange sport. Very frustrating sport. And for me, it's a very serious sport. I don't play golf to enjoy the outdoors, to enjoy the company. I play golf to win, to improve, to get better. Otherwise, I don't like the sport. For me, sports are to be won, not to be played. All right. And it's because since I was a little boy, I've always taken sports very seriously. Too seriously, in my opinion. Okay, I was a pretty good chess player when I was a teenager. In fact, I was the school champion 2 years in a row. Since then, I've played maybe 5 times only. I simply don't have time. I just don't have time. I simply don't have time. All right. Page 65, paragraph 577. My son's only 4 years old. My son. He's only 4 years old. But for some reason, he's crazy about dinosaurs. He knows the name and habits of probably 50 different types of dinosaur. My wife and I are amazed. Yeah, the little boy. He's little, 4 years old. And he's an expert on dinosaurs. This kid. I don't know why, but he's crazy about dinosaurs. He knows the names and habits of ¿cuántos? Probably 50 different types of dinosaur. That's a Tyrannosaurus Rex. That's the Brontosaurus, a Diplodocus. This is what, wow. And Diplodocus only eats leaves on the trees. And the Brontosaurus and the Diplodocus are very similar, but the Brontosaurus wow. Okay. This Mico. This little guy is an expert on dinosaurs. And he's only 4 years old. Why? I don't know. But it says, my son is only 4 years old. And for some reason, por alguna razón, he's crazy, está loco. He's crazy about. En español, loco por. Estoy loco por ti. I'm crazy about you, acerca de ti. Y él está loco acerca de los dinosaurios. Dinosaur. My son is only 4 years old, and for some reason, he's crazy about dinosaurs. He knows the name and habits, los hábitos, costumbres. He knows the names and habits of probably 50 different types of dinosaur. 50 different types of dinosaur. My wife and I are amazed, asombrados. My wife and I, mi mujer y yo, my wife and I. La D de and, no lo digo. My wife and I. My wife and I are amazed. Yeah, amazed. Okay, the next one. Number 578. When the members of the primitive tribe saw the anthropologists arriving in their van, they quickly hid their TVs, computers, and cell phones. Fortunately, they hid them in time. You don't understand. No? You don't understand, no? Well, the members of a primitive tribe, una tribu primitiva, tribe. The members of the primitive tribe. Anthropologists visit primitive tribes to study the customs and the habits of the tribe. And the tribes are considered primitive. All right. In this case, when the members of the primitive tribe saw the anthropologists arriving in their van es su camioneta o monovolumen, llegaban en un camioneta el grupo de antropólogos para estudiar la tribu esta primitiva. And the members saw, miren los antropólogos. And so what did they do? Hey, the anthropologists are coming to study us. What did they do? They quickly put their televisions, TVs, computers, cell phones, and to hide them. So the anthropologists could study their primitive nature. No, they had televisions, cell phones, and things. So rápidamente escondieron sus televisores y móviles, etc. Vienen los antropólogos. All right. So when the members of the primitive tribe tribe. When the members of the primitive tribe saw the anthropologists arriving in their van. In my van, van, V-A-N es camioneta o monovolumen, van. Van. Y que suene la V, por favor. Porque si dices van, es prohibir. Van. Van. Suena como abanico, ¿no? Fan. O ventilador. Fan. Fan. Hay un abanico en mi camioneta. There's a fan in my van. There's a fan in my van. Fan. Fan. Van. Mi boca hace la misma mueca, digamos, para decir las dos palabras. Fan, there's a fan in my van. Hay un abanico en mi monovolumen o camioneta. Furgoneta. There's a fan in my van. The only difference is the vocal cord, my vocal cords. Fan, fan, van. Vibro aquí, en el labio inferior con los dientes frontales superiores. Fan, van. Fofo, fofo y fofito. Vovo y vovito. Falencia, valencia. Vampiro, vampiro. Vaporizar, vaporizar. Veinte, veinte. Viajero, viajero. Victory, victory. Van, van. In my van, no, in their van. When the anthropologists, when the members of the primitive tribe saw the anthropologists arriving in their van, they quickly hid. Hid is the past tense of to hide. Rápidamente escondieron. They quickly hid their TVs, computers, and cell phones. Fortunately, they hid them in time. So, when the anthropologists came in, the primitive tribe was living like a primitive tribe. And the anthropologists didn't see the modern comforts and facilities they had. Okay. So, the next one, the next to last paragraph on page 65. In countries where baseball is popular, kids enjoy simply throwing the ball back and forth. We call that playing catch. It's a bit like kids with soccer balls practicing ball control. Yeah. It's very common. You know, you're walking in the park and you see a boy or two boys or the father and the son playing with a soccer ball. Yeah, balón de fútbol. Yeah, soccer ball. Soccer, football, a soccer ball, and the ball control. Yeah, and they're playing with ball control. Does Victor know how to do that? Yeah. Is he a good player? Yeah? All right. That's ball control. In baseball, we do something similar. It's called playing catch. Catch is coger. Jugar al coger. Jugar a recibir el balón. La pelota de béisbol. You have a glove. You know, you're wearing your baseball glove, and you have the ball. You say, okay, Jimmy. And then Jimmy. And just playing catch. Throwing the ball back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Do you remember the movie? I can't remember the name of the movie. It's a good movie. It's with Robert Redford about baseball. Robert Redford made 2 movies about baseball. One was called Field of Dreams, Campo de Sueños. It's a fantastic movie. Eh? But he made another baseball movie, a bit mysterious. And it's called the something. I can't remember what it's called. In which he is almost killed and he comes back 12 years later to play baseball at the age of 33. But at the end, he marries his sweetheart, and they have a child. And he's playing catch with his son in Iowa or in Nebraska to play catch. So, in countries where baseball is popular, where? What countries? Baseball is popular in the United States, in Canada, in Puerto Rico, in the Dominican Republic, in Cuba. It's very, very popular. In Venezuela, and in the north of Mexico, Monterrey, Saltillo, Chihuahua, Sonora, and that. In the north of Mexico's baseball is very, very popular. In Japan, in South Korea, and in Taiwan. Baseball is a wonderful sport, really is. But baseball requires a bat, a ball, and gloves. So it requires a little bit of money. Playing football, soccer doesn't. It's just one ball. And you can create a goal and things. It's very, very cheap. But baseball requires bats and balls and gloves. All right. But in any case, in countries where baseball is popular, kids enjoy. Claro. En países donde el béisbol es popular, niños o chavales, kids, no los niños, kids en general. The kids, no, kids. In countries where baseball is popular, kids enjoy simply throwing the ball back and forth. We call that playing catch. Playing catch. It's a bit like kids with soccer balls practicing ball control. It's a bit similar. It's one of the basic elements of the sport. One of the fundamentals of the sport. Ball control is one of the most important, maybe the most important fundamental of soccer. And in baseball, catching the ball and throwing the ball, catching and throwing, are two of the basic movements and basic fundamentals of baseball. Hitting the ball and running, of course. It's an interesting sport, baseball. I really like baseball. It's very interesting. But in any case, but for Spanish people, usually most people here in Spain don't understand it, and they can't appreciate it. But in any case. All right. And finally, at the bottom of page 65, paragraph 580. I remember when Pam and I were about to kiss for the first time. All of a sudden, Jerry ran into the room to warn us about a bomb in the building. We had to postpone that special moment. Ay, pobrecitos. ¿Sabes lo que ha pasado? No? More or less. I remember when Pam and I, ¿Qué es Pam and I? Pamela y yo. Pamela, Pam, and I. Pam and I. Yo recuerdo que Pamela y yo estaban a punto de besarnos por vez primera, ¿no? Yeah. I remember when Pam and I were about to kiss. Estábamos a punto de besarnos por primera vez. El primer beso, the first kiss. I remember when Pam and I were about to kiss for the first time. All of a sudden, de repente entró Jerry corriendo. All of a sudden, Jerry ran into the room. Entró corriendo a la habitación. Ran into the room to warn us about a bomb in the building. Hay una bomba en el edificio. Huh? About the bomb in the building. Tuvimos que posponer el momento especial. We had to postpone that special moment. Darling, hey Pam, yeah. Give me a kiss, come on. No, come on, yeah. I know you want to. All right. Finally we did. Hey guys, all of a sudden, suddenly is de repente. Suddenly. Pero eso es no es que sea literario, pero se usa más por escrito. Al hablar, todo de un repentino. All of a sudden. Escrito sudden. All of a sudden, como muerte súbita en tenis. Sudden death. All of a sudden. All of a sudden. All of a sudden. Se dice 1000 veces más que suddenly. Pero se dice suddenly también. Y nos vale suddenly. All of a sudden, Jerry ran into the room. To run into the room. He didn't walk into the room. He didn't swim into the room. He didn't crawl into the room. He ran into the room. And he didn't fly. He didn't fly into the room. No, abuelo. He didn't fly into the room. And he didn't back into the room. No entró la habitación marcha atrás en su coche. To back into the room. La constante is into. He ran into the room and ruined the first kiss. See you tomorrow.